Are the radical Dems really dumb enough to take the Attorney General to court? Apparently, Chairman Nadler may well be just that dumb. We'll ask one of the preeminent Republican leaders in the House of Representatives with us tonight, Congressman Jim Jordan, a member of the Judiciary Committee, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, co-founder of the House Freedom Caucus. Congressman, good to see you. And
good to be with you.
You have the pleasure of sitting on that committee.
I do.
Is your chairman really going to take this to court?
I mean, he probably will. Understand what the Democrat chairmen are doing, Lou. You got Richard Neal, chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, going after the president's tax returns for the past several years. You've got Maxine Waters and Chairman Cummings going after 10 years of the president's business records based on the testimony of Michael Cohen, who went to prison last week, and he went to prison for lying to Congress. And then you have Chairman Nadler, who is telling the Attorney General, comply with our subpoena, and if he would comply with that subpoena, he would be breaking the law. So this is how crazy the Democrats have gotten and the coordinated effort they have in attacking the President of the United States. As
you say, the coordinated effort. I think most of us thought there was coordination, as there is often amongst the committees, even when they're going after just pure political purposes, trying to further harass the president now that they lost the special counsel gambit. But you actually are demanding that the chairman release a memorandum of understanding among those chairmen, certainly with Maxine Waters at House Financial Services.
Right. Maxine Waters, Chairman Waters has, we think, a memorandum of understanding with Chairman Schiff. We know that Chairman Cummings has one with Chairman Waters as well. He entered into that without telling the committee, didn't tell me, didn't tell the Republicans on the committee. My guess is he probably didn't even tell the Democrats on the committee. We want that information public so the American people can see, again, when you put it in writing, the coordinated effort amongst the chairmen to systematically go after the President of the United States, the guy that we all elected president. That's what we want made public. So the courts talked about it yesterday in the court case about the president's business records. We think the American people should be able to see that memorandum of understanding.
Wow.
So we sent a letter to Chairman Cummings today saying release that information.
Yeah, let me quote just from part of it, in which Congressman Jordan says this, quote, I encourage you to release publicly your MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Chairwoman Waters and any other signed or unsigned MOUs that you have entered into so that the American people can understand the extent to which you and other Democrat chairpersons are engaged in an orchestrated effort to attack the president for political gain.
Yep.
That is astonishing. Do you actually expect a response?
Probably not, because we found out this not from Chairman Cummings. We found out about it from another committee. And then we went to Chairman Cummings. We've actually seen a copy, but we've encouraged him to make it public. I don't know that he will. I hope he does. I mean, I can't get into all the details until it's made public, but he talks all through there about investigative strategy, investigative technique. That's the word they use throughout the document. Again, we think the American people deserve a right to see what they're up to.
The White House attorney, Cipollone's response, did you not think that was one of the finest crafted letters you've seen in a while?
There have been lots of good letters from the White House counsel. 2 weeks ago, Emmett Flood's letter, where he talked. I brought this up in the committee hearing last week, where he talked about if they can do what we think they did to the President of the United States with this coordinated spying effort, if they can do it to the President, imagine what they can do to you and I, Lou. Imagine what they can do to the folks I get the privilege of representing. And that's a fundamental principle. That's why it's important Bill Barr and John Durham get to the bottom of this thing.
And the appointment of Durham, it's interesting. I've heard some reservation about him. Not personally,
I think he's good.
But I'm sorry?
I think he's a good pick.
Okay, that's where I was going. We might as well get to that answer quickly.
No, I think he is. I mean, remember, this is also the U.S. attorney who was investigating Jim Baker, former chief counsel at the FBI. Now Bill Barr has selected him to lead his investigation and get to the bottom of the term Bill Barr used, not the term you and I used, the term Bill Barr used 4 weeks ago in front of Senate Finance. He talked about the spying that he thinks did occur. He says there's a basis for my concern about that spying that took place. And he used a couple terms that are really scary: unauthorized surveillance and political surveillance. He wants to get to the bottom of it. He selected John Durham. I think it's a good pick.
A good pick. And as we close out here, The investigation into the investigators is now underway. This day couldn't have gotten here soon enough.
I agree.
But it certainly feels good to consider the prospect of justice actually being done, and for these politically corrupt officials of both justice and the FBI and intelligence community as well,
Yep.
it now appears, it feels pretty good to just see the beginning of it.
Sure does. Sure does, Lou. And look, I think Bill Barr has handled himself exactly the way the American people want the Attorney General of the United States to operate, and I think he's going to get to the bottom of this and get the answers that we all deserve.